We have 6 stories in total for you guys today. The first story is posted by you/Poshbo with the title of Landlord Advertises All of Our Company's Equipment for Sale to Our Competitors. Best follow our eviction to the letter. I work for a leisure company. Think soft play, indoor soccer, laser tag, can't be specific. Prior to lockdown, managers and the big bosses were negotiating the renewal of the lease on one of our parks. Things were going mostly smoothly. However, the landlords were difficult to contact. Then 2022's crap hit the fan. All of our sites were closed, and everything was thrown into a mess. Negotiations began to slip down the priority list. Nobody thought the landlord would push an eviction for an expired lease during this period, especially with it still getting rent, despite the site's closure and the closure of every business and restaurant in the immediate area. We were wrong. A few days ago we received a letter saying we had 7 days to leave the premises and take everything with us. We are reminded that anything left in the building after 7 days will become the landlord's property. That line is very important. Now, a lot of construction goes into installing our equipment into a new building, which makes emptying one even harder. At a lockdown, with no staff and most businesses shut, it meant that saving much of our assets would prove to be extremely difficult. To lose a profitable site and all of its assets is definitely a blow to our company. But here is where it gets worse. A few days into our 7-day eviction, we find out that the landlord has been advertising our park to our competitors. But he isn't offering just the building. He is offering all of our stuff pre-installed, ready to go, just needs rebranding. The landlord has evicted us from the property in an attempt to increase rent and make a solid profit from our equipment installed because he thinks we won't be able to empty the park. We were furious, and here is where the malicious compliance came in. We were told we had 7 days to move everything we owned out of the property. So that's what we did. Local businesses from all around offered up free space to store our things. A few people came back out of lockdown, and they all spent the rest of the week removing, selling or destroying everything that was related to us. We didn't even leave light fittings. In every other site vacation we have seen, we always end up leaving thousands of dollar sign worth of disco lights in the ceilings, because they're too hard to get. We leave most of the construction in, as well as things like the bars and kitchens that all stay intact, recognizable as what they once were. But not this building. We ripped up the flooring we installed, tore down the walls that were not part of the original structure, wooden walls to divide up the space, ripped apart our manager's offices, and removed all artwork and lockers. The landlord now has every new deal he has been making dead in the water. A large renovation bill to install new flooring, etc., or a company willing to do it themselves like we were. Lockdown has been extended another 4 weeks, so he has at least another 4 weeks without rent. We were paying and won't have any potential buyers. Silver lining, the assets we got out of the site, fridges, TVs, equipment, food, tables, have all been sold, and the lack of rent and additional income has helped the business and paid staff wages. TLDR, landlord gives us 7 days to vacate our leisure business from the building. He thinks we can't empty the business during lockdown and proceeds to advertise our equipment for sale to our competition. We sell everything in 7 days and destroy the rest. Enjoy no rent and the loss of your potential buyers. On to the second story written by you/balloon understudy. My neighbors wanted to call a professional to mark their property line. My parents agreed. This was a long time ago, but I remember it clearly. We moved into a community with tight space in between our house and our neighbors, and we didn't like them being able to see into our kitchen. We put up a bunch of plants, costing thousands, but my parents thought it would be worth it. A week later my parents awoke to the plants completely chopped down. My father was furious and marched down to our neighbor's house. He told my father the plants were on his property line, therefore he had total right to take them down. He warned that if anything were to go on his property again, he would report us to the authorities immediately. Later that day my father called the company that put in the plants, and with the warranty we could have them replanted next week for no charge. We made sure there was no way it was on our neighbor's property. However, a few days later, we caught him chopping them down at 2 a.m. We called the police upon obstruction of property, and after a chat with my neighbor he decided to call a professional and mark his property line. My father agreed. A few days later I got home to find orange tape in my neighbor's yard. Apparently, his fence was 11 feet over our property line. We watched as he took down his fence, completely furious. Within the next month we were enjoying our new space and privacy in our backyard, and my neighbor ended up losing 1 divided by 4 of his backyard. My neighbor ended up having to pay almost $10,000 for the destruction of our property. And we got to plant our plants again. TLDR, my neighbor chopped down our plants because he claimed we were on his property. After calling a professional, he lost 11 feet of his backyard and had to pay for destruction of property. And we got to keep our plants. On to the third story shared by you/Princess G66. I don't care if he is dead, put him on the phone. My father died on Father's Day 2012. He was divorced and living alone, and I am an only child. So that means that I had to wrap up all of his affairs. This story centers around us, trying to get his utilities canceled. I called in to see what we had to do to get them to cancel. The lady I spoke with on the phone said to send in his certified death certificate. I sent in the certified copy of his death certificate the next day. The next month got another bill. I called again and a new woman answered. She said that, because I wasn't on the account, that she had to speak with the account holder. I informed her that the account holder was dead, but she didn't budge. I had to make an appointment with a supervisor, so she could speak to him herself in person. I showed up at the Board of Public Utilities with another death certificate and his ashes in the clear bag that they returned his remains in. I plopped them down on the center of her desk and said when she talked to him to tell him that I loved him for me. The woman went pale, flew out her chair, and called the cops. When they showed up, she claimed that I had assaulted her. And yes, my dad's remains were still sitting in the middle of her desk with the death certificate. The cops questioned me as to why I would do that. I told them the story. The supervisor's boss was called in, and they all stepped away from the desk for a private talk. While they were talking, the cops came over to talk to me. They said that I shouldn't take human remains out in public, but there were no laws that were broken. I said that I agreed with them, that it was extreme, but she insisted to speak with him in person. By then, they were done talking between themselves. The supervisor's boss kissed up to me and got it taken care of. But the story isn't over yet. I had to call back a few days later to get utilities back to the house in my name. When the person on the phone saw the address and my name, I was immediately put on hold. The supervisor's boss that finally helped me got on the phone. She sucked up to me and waived all of the fees that come with setting up utilities. Just as the call was ending, she informed me that she was again so sorry for the employee's lack of compassion. She said that the employee was terminated, and again she is so very sorry. TLDR, ignorant employee asked to speak to dead dad. Had a meeting in person, brought his ashes, got her fired. On to the fourth story shared by you/Stuff Things and Stuff. Security made us show the last 5 photos on our phone. My coworker, an absolute hero, maliciously complied at security on one of our subcontractor jobs. The customer was a manufacturer for high-end electronic components. Security was tight as a small 4x6 box, could contain $250,000 worth of microchips. Our team was installing equipment in their facility for 1 week. A security checkpoint had to be passed every trip in or out of the building. Mr. Security Guard, Chad maybe, decided my coworker, Steve probably, was more suspicious than the other for techs. So every trip in or out, not only was Steve made to dump his entire contents of his backpack out on the table and go through it, Chad required Steve to show him the last 5 pictures taken on his phone to prove he wasn't stealing secrets. This is all fine, except Chad lets everyone else through without any sort of inspection. Steve is trying to stay positive, but obviously this is eating away at him. Steve tries to be overly positive, and also a bit snarky with comments like "Thank you, Paul Blart, for keeping America safe," which busts up the rest of our crew. Then Steve has the idea that will free him the rest of the week. Wednesday comes along, Steve is overly scrutinized on our way in. As usual, as we head to security at lunch, Steve says he has to go to the bathroom. He comes back out a few minutes later, absolutely giddy. Chad Blart, mall cop, stops us on our way out and asks Steve to see his camera roll. Steve gladly hands the phone over. Chad is greeted by some very peculiarly angled shots of Steve's butthole. What the fat $$? Chad throws the phone down on the table. "Oh, sorry. I thought I had a hemorrhoid and wanted to see how bad it was. Is everything okay with my pictures? Is the facility safe?" Chad never checked Steve's materials again. Good on you, Steve. On to the fifth story shared by you/NSN242. What do you mean I can't drive my car? I've been a mechanic my entire working life, so far, and this is one of my favorite experiences. I had a customer come in, complaining about a vibration. I put the vehicle on the lift, and checked the front end. I found a nearly broken tie rod, and a faulty rack and pinion. So basically the passenger side front wheel was not fully secured to the steering system, and would soon break, and cause the wheel to be completely disconnected from the steering. I told the customer how much the repair would be, and told her it was unsafe to drive. She asked me to put it back together, so she could leave. I told her that I could not do that, because if it broke after I let her leave, I could be held liable. She started yelling and screaming about calling the cops and suing me, and how her cousin's brother knows a guy who's related to the chief of police, and I'll be arrested. She calls the police and they come out. I show the officers the vehicle, and they understood the safety concern. They told me to just put the car down and let her leave. I did, and even made her sign a statement declining crucial safety repairs. She left with the most "ha-ha, I told you so" smug grin on her face, until she left the property, got pulled over, and her car impounded. They also gave her a ticket for reckless driving. I was so happy seeing her car get towed. FYI, the cops told her it was against the law to drive it. The state laws back then allowed me to do exactly what I did. I offered to discount the price of the repair and take payments. She still refused. And I don't care how well versed you think you are in the law, you don't know when or where this took place. And no, I won't tell you what state I am in, because I have already had several people message me saying they are going to try and find my shop just to harass and blast me. On to the final story shared by you/Araven. Sorry ma'am, of course your son can try the 7M shoe hot sauce. I work in a hot sauce store in a busy outlet mall. We're a well-liked locally owned business and have many loyal return customers. But at this particular location, we also get a lot of tourists who are curious about our challenge items or Hot Ones products. We have a large variety of samples available every day, literally like 100 hot sauces, 50 plus BBQ wing sauces just out on the table. And we can pull another 50 plus bottles or so from the fridge if one's open. Every so often, we get people who come into the store and ask to try the hottest sauce. They love jalapenos in their burritos and have eaten habaneros straight, and they're ready to enter the ring, swallow some sauce, and gain the admiration of a couple friends and bystanders. ... at the cost of a stomachache. We usually try to guide them to the 10th hottest sauce in the store, burn them with it, and move on to something mild or medium, suited to their taste. Today, while I was selling items to people who were actually paying for things, a 10 or so year old boy enters the store. I always get wary when children enter the store alone, because it is full of glass bottles. They usually dart straight for the shelves and pick something up, but this child came barreling towards me like a bullet. While I make change for the couple buying some sauce, he calls out to me, "Excuse me," in a horrendous whiny pitch. I ignore the rude interruption and continue my conversation with my customers. He parrots it again 12 times or so, back to back, as I thank these people and get them out of the store. Finally, I turn to him. "How can I help you? Where the duck are this kid's parents? How can I try the hottest sauce in the store? Not this crap again. I am not dealing with this, not with a 10-year-old kid." I explained to him that the hottest sauce on the table is Hellboy, Right Hand of Doom. It's spiked with a 6.66 million Scoville extract, and honestly, if you're not experienced with this kind of stuff, more than just a tiny bit can really mess up a good part of your day. Take my word for it. I explained to him he has to be 19 years old to try it and sign a waiver, which is B's law, but I'm off in 30 minutes, so screw this kid, and instead guide him to a tasty fermented habanero that he coughs his eyes out on, before explaining to me that he could handle the Right Hand of Doom because his dad eats spicy peppers with him all the time. Okay, I say. He leaves, thank God. 15 minutes later, I'm interrupted by another customer, this time a gigantic woman in a blue blouse. She sat next to my sample table, like a giant blueberry, blocking up 20% of my floor space. "Excuse me, apple doesn't fall far." The customers I'm with are polite and excuse me to speak to her. You didn't let my son try the sauce. I explained to her that it has extract and is several hundred times hotter than anything he has ever eaten, and that it can cause him severe discomfort, and that I will not let him try it in my store. I explained that she is free to purchase the sauce and have him try it at home, if she so wishes. She explains to me that she married a Mexican man, and that I wouldn't believe the things we ate in New Mexico City, where he grew up. When I asked what they had eaten, there she told me, things hotter than anything we have in the store. At this point, her daughter interrupts our conversation. I kid you not. Excuse me? What? I'm getting annoyed. I was annoyed from the second I saw the kid, and now he's back 20 minutes later with 3 of him. Why do you sell Valentina? It's not even a hot sauce. Jesus Christ. Aren't you from Mexico? It says ducking salsa picante on the god-darned bottle. It's $5.50. I'm off at 6. I've had enough. How about this? You can try the sauce, and if it's as mild as you think, I'll let him try it. She agreed and grabbed her sample stick. I reached for the right hand of doom and unscrewed the cap. Its nuclear aroma sending memories of aches to my stomach. As she goes to dip the stick into the sauce, I warn her to only take a small amount. She grins at me and dips the stick all the way into the sauce. Trap card, tramp. She slaps it into her mouth. Immediately she looks uneasy. Before she throws herself into pure agony, she is coughing, swinging her head back and forth, trying desperately to speak, but she cannot muster any words. She dropped her sample stick in all the chaos. After a solid few minutes of coughing and dry heaving, she manages a single word, water. I explain to her that water won't help her now. My relief walks through the door, just in time to witness the finish. She tells me that the only reason she is coughing is because it went down the wrong pipe. She then immediately vomits into our garbage can. She apologizes for spitting up like she didn't just rocket launch half a liter of chum into my trash can, and then leaves without saying anything else. I tossed out the trash with a smile on my face and clocked out. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.